House Corrections and Institutions is Thursday, January 3rd, 1 o'clock meeting. We're having a committee discussion on the appropriations general fund budget adjustment. And yesterday we went through a couple of the items that we have agreed to support. And that is the $1 million for upgrade to the offender management system so they can start implementing the 1115 waiver. And the goal is that it starts to get implemented by January of next year. We've also agreed to the governor's recommend of additional lease agreement charges and fees for the Agency of Digital, from the Agency of Digital Services to DOC for their IT system. So we've agreed to that. We had the most discussion about filling a deficit in the Vermont Correctional Industries Fund to the tune of about 3.1 million. In our discussions yesterday, there was concern about the solvency of what is left of Vermont Correctional Industries so that we don't get in this situation again. But also there was concern, there's other work programs that's not connected with Vermont Correctional Industries that our offenders also do while they're incarcerated. There's concern about the wages they are paid for. For some, it's 25 cents an hour, up to possibly $1.25 an hour. So there was concern. Troy put on the table some of his thoughts about really starting to look at this and see if we could increase those wages. So 3 of our committee members, Troy, Mary, and James, went off yesterday to work to see if we wanted to submit some language along with our recommendation for filling the hole. I think we sort of feel we should fill the $3.1 million hole, but we haven't taken a vote on that. But we really need to address, I think there was a feeling from committee members, the wage scale for some of the folks who are incarcerated and what those wages could be used for. Because those wages could be used to help the person save some money while they're incarcerated so they can use that when they reenter the community. It could help possibly, some of them could earn something and then turn that over to their family to help them be able to meet the needs while the person's incarcerated. It might also help with them paying for commissary within the facilities, or it could go to some programming as well. We just, there's some opportunities there. So I'm going to turn this over to Troy and Mary, and James also worked on this. At 12 o'clock, we sat down with Commissioner Demmel and Haley Summers as well to go through some language. And they have agreed to this version of language. So I'm going to turn it over to Troy and Mary, and you all have a hard copy of it.
Yeah.
So if we could just go through it, it would be great.
Yeah, so the 3 of us went next door and we had a conversation about what we would want that intent language to include based on, we tried to capture as much of the conversation we had as possible. I took notes on that conversation and compiled that into this. So I want to just state something very, very clearly. When I become the writer of something like this, and I said this to James and to Mary in an email last night, I'm always trying to be hyper aware of the fact that, right, he who holds a pen, right, has access there and potential impact there. And I try to be as true as I can to the conversation that the 3 of us had in this case.
And you were.
Yeah, so I sent it to them last night, got a quick response. We talked again this morning. The 3 of us talked again this morning, looked for last minute tweaks or edits that might need to happen so that it truly represented our three voices that try to truly represent the conversation that preceded that sub meeting. So this is what came out of that. We sent it over to DOC sometime this morning. And the commissioner and Haley came and worked with us at noon to tweak it a little bit more so that it feels a little more accurate as to what is currently going on and where these deficits may have originated from and where they certainly haven't originated from. And this is a result of that, all of those conversations. Mary, anything else?
Thank you, David. I think it would be important for everyone to read it through if you haven't already. Just to make sure that your thoughts are included kind of within this, because we tried to do it based upon comments made yesterday as well as some of our own comments. I think it's so that we hopefully will never be in another position like this where all of a sudden we've got a 3.1 or 4 million in front of us that we've got to fill. It's not a good place to be.
Do you want to just talk about intent language? more
Yeah,
broadly?
let's just do the paragraph first. I'll quietly read that. And then, questions, and Troy can explain it as well, too. Want to make sure everybody's read them. Question, Phil, Will?
No, the language sounds fine to me. My only question is, does this resolve that $3.1 million in this? Because the only line I see was General Assembly notes with concern that a significant budget deficit is developed with previously existing that line. That's the only line I see in reference to
So,
that 3.1.
What the process would be
Mhm.
is we would agree to to wiping the deficit off for the 3.1 million.
Okay.
We would agree to that. But we would also recommend to the Appropriations Committee that this gets added to that request.
Okay.
That, yes, we agree, put in the 3.1 million to address the deficit in the fund, but we'd also like this intent language to be added to budget adjustment as we go forward with the different work programs the DOC has and to really look at their wage structure. So it's not connected to the 3 million,
But it's like a condition.
but it's like, hey, this really came to our attention. We really have concerns here about the current wage structure and how do we look at that going forward?
Are we allowed to offer amendment to this intent language to tweak it?
We could,
Okay.
I just want people to know we've
Yeah.
worked with DOC and they've signed off on this.
Okay.
So we already tweaked the language quite a
Okay.
bit.
And
So
I'm
it
fine,
just-
I'm fine with the language. And again, maybe this, what I'm gonna say shouldn't belong in this, but just part of that 3.1 mil, like, cause it sounds like these are now two separate things we're voting on, right? Or are we conjoining it?
They're kind of conjoined.
Okay, okay. Can they give us, cause like right here, we said December 15th, they're gonna submit this plan. Could they also give us a report at the end of each calendar year of all those accounts? So we make sure they're not running a deficit in any other account going forward?
I think that's the end of part one, is it not?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, maybe I didn't catch
To
on.
address these
Sorry.
issues, develop.
Oh, yeah, regular reporting. Perfect.
So we would be getting that in line for us so that we don't.
So
There we go. Thank you.
Joe?
mine isn't really, just clarification, was the cap $1.25 or $1.35 an hour? Maybe I heard that wrong yesterday. I thought it was,
$1.35.
it is $1.35?
What's it, 35?
I can verify that.
I thought it was
Pretty sure that's-
25, but maybe.
I might have heard it wrong. It's very, I may very well, I have no
Tired
substantive
about
questions
this.
from the first paragraph. I didn't, just that one
Yeah.
thing and I,
So I think it is $1.
$1.25.
Yeah, I'm saying in mind.
I thought I heard 25.
That's it. I quit. I thought I was.
Kevin?
I like language. My question is, so now we're recommending we get rid of the debt. Do we need to find that 3.1 million someplace?
No,
It's already been transferred.
it's already in the BAA.
Okay,
So there was a surplus of some dollars at the end of our last fiscal year.
okay.
So they're using some of those surplus general fund dollars to fill in these holes.
And is that a number that you can share with this committee, how much there was left over?
Well, it's not left over. It's at the end of the fiscal year of 24.
Uh-huh.
There was an anticipation, there were revenue forecasts that were made. I think it's back in April. They finished that, right?
No.
They do it in January and then I think they revisit it in April, the emergency board. And they agree to what the amount of revenues is being anticipated and you build your budget based on it. At the end of a fiscal year, you could have a surplus or you could have a deficit.
Right.
This, at the end of FY 24, there was a surplus in terms of what was anticipated
Yep.
for revenues. So I'm going to throw in a little monkey wrench here. Because at times when a budget, general fund budget is built, if there is an anticipation of a surplus at the end of our fiscal year, what is created is what is called a waterfall. So say we had, I'm just going to pull 30 million surplus at the end. And there was language in our state budget that stated what the waterfall would be. The first 10 million of a surplus would go to this particular item. The remaining 20 million would be divvied up between these next 10 items.
Oh.
Okay, that's what's called the waterfall.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't remember if there was a waterfall in our FY 24 budget or not. So sometimes the surplus is used that way. And if there is no waterfall, the surplus can then be used for the next fiscal year budget adjustment, which is now. Or if it's not used, can then go towards the subsequent fiscal year, which would be FY 26.
But also in the BAA, on a more simplistic level, let's just pretend we're gonna take these out. So you have project A, B, C. Project A has $3 million, but only use 2.5. You have 500,000 left. You can use that on D. So that's removing the total buckets or just moving the numbers around.
Right.
So that's part of what this is as well. So
Right.
3 million exists somewhere. It's not like we're not coming up with it like we would in the new budget. We're going to start next week.
Just an example of that, like last biennium, a lot of us were advocating for flood money, right? And we were told by appropriations,
And
like,
you didn't get it.
okay, banks closed. But we got in the budget a couple million to raise homes. If there was enough, it was essentially a waterfall. So you only get it if you have the money there. But
So Troy, I saw you. Is this a correction that you're bringing up? Okay, hang
I
on.
just want to clarify the wage scale.
Okay. $25.
Well, it starts at 25, hourly working starts at 25, goes all the way up to 125. There's also a bonus / incentive at 10 cents an hour. That's where that $1.35 came from. So the potential wages are technically 25 to 135.
With the
Because there's a
bonus.
bonus in there, 10 cent bonus.
So do we keep 135?
Yeah, I would advocate keeping it at 135. but
Right.
I guess it's a question about intent for number 3, and then I may have a question depending on that. What's why? Well, is it just, do you think there's gonna be a limited number of programs and so we want to scoop up as many people as possible? What if one skill is more valued right now coming out? You know, what's 3 doing?
Do you want to talk about that? The
Are you in
worry
the
that,
third bullet?
Yes, I am. Number 3.
the worry that this is only serving 10 people doing license plates, that
Yeah, I mean, that was one of our concerns. We know that this all is going to serve, but maybe there's more than 10 people in the, say, St. Albans, which is where to do it. Are you at least looking? It may be only 10 that want to do this. But are you looking at the general population saying, well, there's 30 people that want to do it and rotating them through, et cetera? Like you're just looking at it like not just going, these are our 10 guys and they're gonna stay here and everybody else can just kind of, you know what I mean? It's just looking at, are you making it so that other people can participate if they're eligible?
But to me, it sounded almost like you were going to choose programs or whatever woodworking or welding, depending on how many people you could get into that program. But this is more about who gets to participate in a given program.
Yeah, there's only 2 programs, so yeah.
Well, but we're hoping to expand,
we're
right?
hoping
And
to
have different
expand.
ones.
It says valuable work experiences, so that.
I didn't know that we didn't talk about expanding.
Well, but we're talking about having relevant skills coming out into society, and it doesn't sound like.
Yeah, but that's not.
Like separate things we're talking about.
CI.
Okay.
Yeah, that was more like for voc rehab and the other stuff with that.
Yeah, I was conflating the two, right?
Second to last sentence, third word.
In the intent, or where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's in the last paragraph. I'm
Okay.
before I had that.
No, that's fine.
Suggest considering the word activity
What
in
sentence,
place of issues.
which sentence are you in? You're in the last paragraph,
So.
Where's it start?
last paragraph or
Yeah,
the?
the last paragraph. So if I, from the sentence beginning with the word further, which is the third line.
Further, the General Assembly expects
Timely reporting of financial or operational
issues.
issues, maybe financial and operational activity. These issues is subjective
Oh, right there.
from the party that's remitting them. So were we to get timely accounting of activity, then this committee and the assembly would be able to discern whether or not there was an issue.
Yeah.
From the committee's perspective.
There's a committee,
Makes sense.
think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Does that work for DOC? Maybe you were thinking of something else.
I was thinking of something.
That's fine. That's fine.
Do you want to run it back or do you want me to just?
No, we're gonna snowball right over here.
Thumbs up. It changes on the last paragraph. The second sentence. Further, the General Assembly expects timely reporting of financial and operational issues within the program to ensure appropriate oversight. Change the word issues to activities.
Okay.
Expects timely reporting of financial and operational activities within the program.
No objection.
It's easy. That works.
I'm making changes as we go here in the original document. So
So that's the only change.
it's the only change so far. We were gonna look at 25, but I think we agreed to.
Kept it to 35. Brian and then Kate, Connor.
Number one, the last little clause there, the last 3 words, in real time. I guess partly those seem like weasel words. I don't really know what that means. And are we talking about the yearly reporting in December? And I guess one little follow on to that, are we sure that there are no other deficits out there, or does this language catch those up too? So those are a few different things. What does in real time mean?
Meaning we can correct it immediately.
So we're not waiting for this December report, like they're doing their monthlies and they see something, tell us right away, as opposed to waiting for the annual.
Business plan, let me get in my head to last night here. Business plan, that ensures all facility work programs, could you change this with the department? Operate without recurring deficits, including regular reporting to the General Assembly on the development of deficits and the corrective actions taken to address them in real time, meaning when they became aware of the development of the deficits, report to us what actions you took to correct those.
Yeah, like, what did you do right then? When you found out there's a deficit, what did you do then to correct it? They're telling us.
I see. So the in real time is only modifying corrective actions, not deficits?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm a person here. I don't know, which is good.
I think the committee did a great job. I think I have an overall issue with it in that if I look through all the bullets, this isn't the expertise of DOC necessarily. This is Department of Labor and ACCD when you look at like which jobs are viable, like after they leave corrections, putting together a business plan. I feel like we're putting too much on DOC, and I'd like to see AOL at least be consulted, if not play a role in redesigning the whole thing, but maybe that's a bigger conversation.
Much better.
But it doesn't feel like this is necessarily the skill set of what these guys haven't said. Not to disparage it, but yeah.
So I'm thinking, let's think this through. This is just a snapshot in time to say, looking at the current programs that DOC is paying offenders to do certain work, okay? Troy, you're going to be introducing a much more in-depth bill about work programs and all of that, right?
It's got commissary, price, profit capping, telecommunications, profits, and minimum wage.
So that's going to get into talking about a linkage, possibly, of the work that's done in corrections with the linkage of what's needed in the labor force.
I think there's certainly room for that to get in there.
I think that's a really big conversation
Yeah,
that needs to happen, but I'm just thinking of the process here, because this language is what we're going to recommend to Appropriations Committee. And it's the $3 million deficit that has really brought this to the forefront. So we're concerned about that deficit, how it came about, and saying, hey, let's not have this again. But also let's look at what we are paying vendors for doing janitorial work or working in the kitchen or doing the laundry, that type of thing. And hey, we're not paid very much, and constitutionally, that may be an issue.
And to Connor's point, they may bring in labor.
well, that's why I'm wondering, should we say in consultation with labor or?
I think that's implied in what they have to do.
I think that opens it up a lot more than what we intended, doesn't
There
it?
is general purpose. And this, for this language is general and it's not super prescriptive on intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with it, but I just feel like if we're making them go through the exercise to do it, why not do it right and make it more comprehensive rather than come back with another bill and do it again, you know? Like, this is not in the DOC, like, wheelhouse, most of this. It's,
Do you have a quick way of
the
correcting?
quickest would be direct Department of Corrections in consultation with DOL, but
But what if we did that just for the second bullet? Workforce development and skill transfer. This includes consideration of expanding technical training and certification opportunities that carry recognized value in the labor market. Put in this bullet in consultation with the Department of Labor.
Comprehensive evaluation, comma, in consultation with the Department of Labor, comma.
The Department of Labor isn't going to get involved in looking at how many offenders can participate in a program or the wage
It's okay.
structure.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Or even just parenthetically after the bolded heading, skill transferability in conjunction with the.
Consultation.
In consultation.
Where are you on that, Connor?
makes me feel better. I mean, like.
We're not trying to make you feel great, as long as you're better.
I feel very, yeah,
So
More than
are
lukewarm.
we in parentheses after transferability, or are we set off with commas after evaluation?
I think after the evaluation personally, but
You okay with that, Brian?
Hell yeah. Heck yeah.
yeah.
So a comprehensive evaluation in consultation with DOL?
Yep.
Maybe you start the sentence, DOC in consultation with DOL, look at a comprehensive evaluation of the skills. Start the sentence off with that. But what do I know? We're doing it on the fly.
DOC is the blanket sort of shell above number one, so that's gonna be difficult.
Oh,
If
okay.
you wanna,
Yeah.
focus it to point two,
It would be in 2 commas after
Yeah.
evaluation, comma, in conjunction, blah, 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 comma.
and do you wanna talk in more general terms about what intent language does and doesn't do?
Intent language just gives you the legislative intent. It doesn't just gives you a direction. It's not binding. It gives the folks who are looking at this and saying, what does the legislature really mean by 1, 2, 3, and 4? And what we need to do in that legislative intent language lays out what the intent is of the committee.
Freshmen understand that.
My question would be in number 3, where is sufficient portion of the incarcerated population defined?
It's subjective. I mean, that's up to DOC. We can't prescribe,
I
you
just,
know.
I mean, I would assume it would mean people that can actually work.
uh,
And then based on the number of vacancies they have.
And if you're looking at a bill, like, so Troy might have a bill later that deals with these issues in a much more prescriptive way, like this, we're passing a law saying you're gonna do this, you'd want to be more specific, but in that, like, aspirational, if you will, use that language. We're saying this is what we would like you to do in general terms. This is our guide, you know, it's not like you have to do this or else. It's not a.
I got you. I don't see
And they
any
can say, hey,
shalls,
thanks for sharing your intent. with us."
shalls are
Yeah,
made,
no.
always.
So did you incorporate, where did you incorporate in consultation with DOL?
Point 2 reads now, workforce development and skill transferability, a comprehensive evaluation, in consultation with the Department of Labor, of the skills provided through the programs, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
In here?
Hmm?
Is it laying in here?
I'm gonna put a little graphic right there.
Anything else that people are questioning, picking up? That's what. If it looks in good shape, I do want to take a straw vote on it. And then Kevin and Sean will submit this to Trevor along with the other decisions we've made.
Yes.
And I'm sure Trevor's gonna ask to have it explained.
Okay.
And you can bring along with you Troy and Mary and James.
But not Peter, Paul, and Mary.
And you all have it.
Well, I'll bring this, whatever it wants, Troy.
But he'll ask you folks to explain this.
But I'm sorry, so
Give you
the
the
3 of them are
background
gonna
for that.
go to Trevor and explain.
Kevin and Sean are our liaison.
Oh,
to
they're gonna,
Appropriations Committee. Trevor is our liaison from
yes, for
a pro. So the person to connect with this is Trevor. So you should send an email to Trevor indicating we agree with the other pieces. We agree with the 3.1 million for the Correctional Industries Fund, but we would also like to have this language. And then you would electronically send the language
Okay.
to Trevor. But Trevor will look you up and ask you to explain it.
Okay.
And we've already officially done the 3.1. I can't remember. Are we doing that now?
We have, and it's kind of connected with this
Yeah.
language in our minds because we're very concerned that we didn't know much about the deficit. I did get a response from corrections. We asked about the previous it was 1.9 million.
Oh.
It was in I think it was FY 22, right?
That's correct.
Not the 22 session, but FY 22 budget. That 1.9 came at the end of FY 22, I believe, fiscal year surplus. There was a surplus at the end of our budget cycle for fiscal year 22, and there was a waterfall. And that 1.9 to fill in the deficit in the VCI fund at that time was filled with that 1.9 through that waterfall. There was enough surplus in the FY 22 budget at the end of the fiscal year to cover that. And the language in the appropriations bill in the state budget was if there's a surplus at the end of FY 22, there was a whole list of items that would get paid for with that surplus in order of priority. And the 1.9, I think, was probably the fourth one down.
So that fully covered the deficit. It wasn't like we were the last bucket and we only partly covered it. Like the 1.9 was the totality of it.
No, there was more at the time.
So we're just last man down and we got what we got.
No, they got the 1.9.
Yeah.
So, but they knew there was still a deficit there. It's the 3.1 that's left for the deficit. But 1.9 is what was put aside.
Yeah.
It's because people were asking where'd that 1.9 come from?
Yes.
2 years ago to Phil. We asked that question. You gotta find that email. You know, you find emails are tough to get a hold of.
I mean, sometimes you can't remember what to search for.
Yeah, it's the name.
Like on the waterfalls, is Alex was saying for anybody new, like they'll prescribe. It's not like you're first and all the money goes to you, and if there's anything left, it goes to second. It's like they'll say this much goes to the first, this much goes to the second, this much goes to the third. You know.
So she linked the language regarding the 1.9 million they received to begin to fill the deficit in fiscal 22, which we asked about. So now I gotta go to this, and it's 102. Sent me the whole. So this is fiscal year 23. It was done in 22 session, fiscal year 23. So I gotta get down to the correct, hang on, Will. I just need to get to the right page. I can read it to you folks. Is it gonna help or make it worse? So after satisfying, this is the language, fiscal year 22, unallocated reserves, which really means if there's a surplus at the end of FY 22, at that point, it's unallocated. So they're allocating it here. After satisfying the requirements of the state budget, the remaining unreserved and undesignated funds at the close of fiscal year 22 shall remain in the general fund and be carried forward to fiscal year 23. So they put aside okay, so what they did, there was 86 million remaining. And we had a surplus of 86 million. And they put that aside to match our federal IIJA, which a lot of that is us for water and sewer projects that has now on the federal level been put on hold, the federal piece. But after that 86 million is met, then they have a waterfall. And they had 850,000 that was transferred to another fund. They had 1.7 million that was to go to state liability for self-insurance. And then the third one was 1.9 to Correctional Industries Internal Service Fund. So that's your waterfall. So whatever was left after the 86 million, 850,000 first went to another fund. What's left, 1.7 went to the self-insurance fund. After that, 1.9 went to the Correctional Industries Fund. And then after that, there was $10 million that went to Agency of Human Services Global Commitment to offset one-time pressures for Medicaid. So that's how that 1.9 million got put in the fund last time. But it did not take, that 1.9 did not take care of the full deficit.
Gotcha.
This 3 million takes care of it,
Okay.
Now we start from zero,
we hope.
in theory.
Yeah.
Well,
Theory.
Madam Chair.
don't-
So you're saying that when that 1.8 was appropriated to 1.9, appropriated to cover that deficit, that they knew that wasn't covering the entire deficit at that time.
This is what we gave. So
Okay.
not what they asked for.
And speaking of we, actually, while we're on that question, were you and Mary involved in that? Did that come before this committee or how did
No.
that happen?
You know, Mary, it probably did. I mean, we probably looked at it and agreed to it. But then, but once you do that, it's all in appropriations world.
Okay. Yes,
It was not done in detail.
Right.
it wasn't in detail. Okay.
And then it's done in the appropriations world. So the appropriations committee puts together the state budgets, a huge, the documents, you'll see those documents because they're pretty
They're
thick. And then it goes over to the Senate and the Senate can throw that all up and do it all over again. Like they change a lot of stuff and then it gets negotiated in a conference committee. So it's really hard to track. It's really hard to track. So you depend on your colleagues in the appropriations world.
Okay.
Just like for us, we're gonna be in the minutia of the capital bill. We'll know what the Senate changes are to the capital bill when it comes back over here. But for our colleagues out there, they're not gonna know those moving pieces.
And each committee at times has different tweaks to our bill as well. That you're gathering from the different ones.
So that's why it's so important for committees to, when a bill comes out of a committee, you have to have faith in that committee, that they did their work. And you'll find over time that some committees may not do all their work. And the General Assembly doesn't have much faith in that committee's work.
Mm.
You gotta earn it. It's not gonna happen overnight. You gotta earn it.
Maintain
And then there's some committees that come out with legislation that people say, they do good work. I'm not gonna pay any attention to it. I believe that committee. They do good work. I'll take what they say and, believe what they say. And other committees, it's like,
And I know we probably want to go to the vote, but just to follow up on that, is like, so you could take my last committee. In 6 years, I don't think we ever had a bill that lost. And I, very few of them were even like not unanimous. And they were touchy, some of them were, some of them were touchy were. But the bigger point is that you're not going to know everything in every committee. You can't focus on every committee. So just like an issue might come through here and it goes to another, maybe it's to appropriations. It will get changed. Not always, but sometimes. So what you'll see at the end, maybe on the floor, isn't exactly what you already voted for. So you got to catch up. And there's other bills that, maybe judiciary is doing something similar to what we're doing, but not the same. And so anyway, you have to rely on your colleagues and other committees to know everything. And you never will, unless you're really, really smart or have this catalog up here. You're not going to remember everything. And just knowing where to go find answers is the most important thing you can have.
Just watch me, James. Just watch me.
But it was a general comment.
Yeah.
so why are we
So,
as a committee here? Do we support the language? We support the 3.1. Gina, we do, okay. So all of those in favor of making the recommendation to House Appropriations for BAA, we support the 3.1 to take care of the deficit in the Correctional Industries Fund, along with submitting our intent language. All those in support, please raise your hand.
aye.
And you can tell it's an 11-0 vote.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We got that done.
You're gonna get on Alice's bad side if you keep that up.
I am not Madam Chair. is John says to me at home, I am not a member of your committee.
My employees let me know all the time, I'm not the boss, so.
So
You might start hitting-
Ben is going to be coming in here. Not my glasses so I can see, right?
Over to.
We want to take a 10
You want
minute.
to take a quick break, folks? Yeah, take a quick break and we'll go off YouTube.
We're up.
So Will, I got
Hold
your,
off.
hang on, hang on, folks, hang on, folks.